playing Bank Company. We've seen plenty of that. We have not seen much of Black-White Angels yet at all this weekend.
And Black-White Angels here is a derivative of the Black-White control deck from the previous Standard season. A lot of the same tools, removal spells, Read the Bones, Sorin, and Obnixilis. We've seen these cards before, but Gazella and Bruna alongside the package now.
Now, he's much more creature-heavy, where before, the Black-White control decks you'd see, like what Seth Manfield has won Grand Prix with, creature-less versions of the deck, or just one creature throughout the 75. This one, a lot more creature-heavy, with Bruna, with Gazella, with Linvala, with Thalia's Lancers. Now, what that does do, well, there's some positives associated to that, but there's also some negatives. Your deck gets a little bit worse against a deck that has Reflector Mage.
Yes.
So, some trade-offs there. You see a Duskwatch Recruiter for Weidinger. And now we head over to Ritner.
But there's a big difference between playing creatures on curve that get hit by Reflector Mage and sort of stabilizing the game, then deploying your threats, and then having to wait a little while to play through the Reflector Mage. It's not nearly as bad when your plays aren't getting swallowed up on curve.
Ruinous Path will take care of the Duskwatch Recruiter. We'll head back over Chris's way. Both these players 5-0 here today in Columbus. Looks like Weidinger might have a Jace, and he does. So here is Jace's Vryn's Prodigy. But no third land for Weidinger. For Ritner, he'll play an Ultimate Price. Does he have a fourth land? Looks like the answer is no for the Cleveland native. So let's go over Weidinger's way. Looks like Chris did draw a land right on time. That looks to be a Nissa. That's going to resolve. That's going to bring a forest along with it. So no more mana issues here, at least for the time being, for Christopher Weidinger. You see in Ritner's hand, he does have a copy of Thalia's Lancers and a Grasp of Darkness now. He'll play Read the Bones, will Ritner. So he'll scry 2. He's found at least one land, actually 2. One of them is a Gyro Reach Sanitarium, and you can actually search for that with the Lancers.
Yeah, it's legendary. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a one-of, it's a fine value land, and certainly this deck has an interest in going up to 6 and 7 mana for cards like Bruna, Linvala, Sorin, and so forth. So being able to tutor for a legendary land, quite valuable for this deck.
Yeah, pretty cool card here in Thalia's Lancers, getting to search your deck for a legendary card revealed and put it into your hands. Now you get to do kind of the check. Look, man, sometimes you want to search up the old Shinka.
Yep.
The Shizo. The Okina.
Various banding lands from Legends. Adventurer's Guild House
Hello.
can go get. Probably get Caracas most of the time. But you you know, just options. There's a lot of options.
It's important to have options.
Right.
Nissa going to come across here for 2. And now there's Lambhold Pacifist. Just going to pass the turn back. Will Weidinger over to Ritner. Ritner will draw. Picked up a copy of Shambling Vent. Maybe the best creature land standard right now. There's land 5. There's a Sanitarium. Is it time to go to the Lancers? That's the question. Keep in mind, Ritner also has a copy of Kalitas in hand.
Also, Lancers is sized to brawl in standard.
Oh, yeah.
4 power, first strike on the ground. That's going to be the best thing on the battlefield a good percentage of the time.
There will be a trigger. The trigger will resolve. And we'll see what Ritner wants to search up. Now, we have heard stories of him melding angels earlier this weekend.
With Thalia's Lancers, you can set that up with some consistency. And the deck already is naturally suited to play a very long game.
Well, there's Gisela. The Broken Blade. You got a 4/3 flying first strike lifelink. And with any luck, we'll get to see her and Bruna tag team up and turn into Brizella, Voice of Nightmares. But we'll get there soon enough. Collective Company in the draw here for Chris.
Just never not have it.
Well, they don't call it Bank Company for nothing. A couple copies of Dramoka's Command in hand for Weidinger. He's got a lot of options. Mana's a little bit awkward right now, though. Only one source of white mana. Could play Reflector Mage, but if he does that, he kind of opens himself up to something like Languish at that stage. So instead, he's just going to pass the turn back, transform the Pacifist. The draw for Ritner is an Obnixilis.
Also, you don't want to be using Reflector Mage on creatures with end of the battlefield triggers unless you're certain you can win the game on a short timeline. And it looks like this game is settling up to go on for quite a while.
Here's Obnixilis. 5 counters on it. Ritner's going to go after the transformed Lambholt Pacifist. So it's going to fall down to 2 counters now. See our black die to help represent Planeswalkers there. Shambling Vent. And pass the turn. Collected Company on the way, predictably. So we'll see what Weidinger can find here. I'll take a look at the top 6. See how many he can take with him. A couple of Spell Quellers over there. Another copy of Lambholt Pacifist if he wants that.
Another thing I like about this Black-White Angels deck, and I think this is going to be the way decks like this have to get built going forward as long as Spell Queller is a big part of it, a lot of the key cards are 5 or more mana. And I think you can't have your key cards being tagged by Spell Queller if you're a little slow out of the gates. You kind of have to play a cheap game and ignore 3 or 4 for the most part, and then start playing haymakers. And I think Black-White Angels is pretty well set up to take that kind of position.
A forest there is land number 5 for Weidinger. And now here comes the Spell Queller. 1 Ob Nixilis, 1 to Ronnie. So the Planeswalker down. And now here's a Sylvan Advocate with the ability to still play the Spell Queller for Chris. So his deck is kind of humming along here. Don't love the mana layout right now. That's, 3 forest, for example. But outside of that, I think life is pretty good as Duress is the draw here for Ronnie Ritner.
And Ritner kind of has to play in the Spell Queller here because he's about to get outsized on the battlefield anyway. Weidinger with a couple threats in the air, and then additionally Sylvan Advocate's likely to become a 4/5 next turn, and then the Lancers can't block either.
Going to take a Jamoka's Command. You can see the hand there for Weidinger. He's got a Spell Queller, a Reflector Mage, and a Jamoka's Command. Maybe the 3 best cards in his deck are in his hand. So that's a lot to try to overcome. The bonus, however, if you're Ronnie Ritner, is, okay, all of those cards require white mana to cast. And he's a little bit choked on white mana. There's Spell Queller to take care of Gisela. And if you're Ritner, obviously you just saw it with Duress, so you know that's coming. Nothing you can really do about it. These Lancers are going to try to play some more defense here. No good attacks to be had.
Well, the alternative play is just do nothing and wait.
Yeah. Yavimaya to draw. It's a pretty big one.
Yep, that's land number 6.
This is not exactly. He's a little short. He can attack for 12.
Well, 13 because he can use Dramoka's Command to clear out the Lancers.
Also true.
And attack with Nissa as well.
Depends how he wants to play it, right? Because he could just play Reflector Mage to bounce this if he wants to.
Yep.
It's got a couple options here.
And he doesn't have to worry that much about Languish because at the minute, well, I guess Languish is really bad because of all the Gisela coming back.
Yeah. There's Jamoka's Command. Gonna fight there.
Yeah, I like holding the Reflector Mage back in case something happens to a Spell Queller next turn. You still have the Reflector Mage to get Gisela off the battlefield.
So Ritner's gonna fall down to 1. No, I can do is pass the turn back. Ritner will draw. Picked up a Caves of Koilos. Now, he does have Grasp of Darkness in hand. I think the question now is, do I have the ability to play Grasp, get my Gisela back, maybe do something with the, with this knucklehead, Kalitas. Yeah, I couldn't remember his name. My apologies. So he's going to play Kalitas with Grasp at the ready. Might be a little bit of game to be had here.
Well, this is a great spot for Reflector Mage.
Well, this much is very true. Now, he did play land 7. That's going to transform them. That's one less attacker.
Yep.
I think that actually plays a pretty big role in things. Top card is an Evolving Wilds. I actually think he needs that attacker. So there's Reflector Mage. All right, that's going to resolve. But with that on the stack, he gets a Grasp of Darkness in something. He's going to kill that Spell Queller. That means Gisela's going to come back. He also gets a zombie from the Spell Queller dying. He might have enough blockers to stay alive here.
Yep. Maybe the logic here is if if Ritner has nothing, then it doesn't matter if the Nissa can attack or not. And if Ritner does have something, I can't really attack anyway because it's going to trade with a zombie.
Okay.
And he's better off just setting up for a long game and, winning next turn or trying to win the turn after that.
Perhaps. I mean, it's tough to say now because there's really only one good attacker.
But one good attacker is still solid here. You still win the game next turn, most likely. You get the Gazelle off the battlefield. The Kalitas can't be recast. You still have a lot of flying. It's not that bad.
I guess it does all come down to what Ronnie Ritner draws for his turn. But there is actually not, there's not going to be an attack at all. Thalia's Lancer's the draw. Now you see Ritner's going to take a look at Nissa here. He wants to make sure he knows everything that the Sage Animus can do. Right now the modes that are relevant are the fact that it can make a 4/4, or it has the ability to reveal a relevant card. Now I'm curious to see where Ritner's going to go, and I had a feeling it was going to be Bruna.
Right. Try to merge these two together.
Meld
these two together.
Meld, yes.
You know what I meant.
Well, let's see what happens when you do meld Bruna and Gisela. I know that's a Brizella. And that's a 9/10 flying first strike vigilance lifelinker, and your opponent can't cast spells and convert mana cost 3 or less. That shuts out a lot of cards from this deck.
It's basically just Collected Company into Reflector Mage to get out from it.
Yep. And that's what Ritner's trying to put together here. So you see the power of Thalia's Lancers. It searched for one legendary creature this game in Gisela, and now it searched for the other half of the combo in Bruna. And now he's looking to meld together Brizella. So this is a very important draw step here for Chris. I think he may have just found Collected Company.
Of course he did.
There's a forest, and there's the battlefield. Now, Collected Company has missed before, in theory.
It's going to be a Reflector Mage here, and it's going to go on to game 2 before we can see some sweet meld action.
Top 6 here for Chris. Does he find Reflector Mage to make this easy? That's the question. Spell Queller, there's the Mage.
Yeah, of course he did.
Yep.
This is not your first show. I know this is not your first show.
Oh, did you think you were going to win? No. No, Reflector Mage says you can't win.
Oh, did you think you were going to set up some sweet synergy involving mythics from the new set that are super flavorful together?
Christopher Weidinger is going to win
bounce your
guy here.
Bounce your guy with the best card from the previous set, kill you with the best card from the new set.
Yeah.
Go to game 2.
Up a game over Ronnie Ritner. Bad company with old cards and new cards. Up a game over Black White Angels. We take a look at the sideboard. You'll see 3 Transgress the Mind, 2 Deadweight, 2 Flaying Tendrils, and a lot of one-ofs here in Liliana the Last Hope, Feldar Cub, Collective Brutality, Anguish Unmaking, Planner Outburst, Read the Bones, Bruno the Fading Light, and a Duress.
I like bringing in the additional copy of Duress, even though there aren't that many spells in the Band Company deck. They are high impact, and most of the sideboard is going to involve spells. Beyond that, I think the Transgress the Minds fit in all right here. I like the Planar Outburst, just some sweepers, some additional removal spells.
Other side of things for Chris, he's got 2 Decimator of the Provinces, 2 Negate, 2 Tragic Arrogance, 2 Declaration in the Stone, 2 Aerial Volley, and one-ofs in Lamel Pacifist, Nissa, Vastwood Seer, Ochthide's Command, Archangel Evison, and a Tireless Tracker. I
like the copy of Nissa, I like the Tireless Tracker, I like the Ochthide's Command, and I like the copies of Declaration in Stone alongside the 2 Negates, so a lot of good options here.
I'll give you an idea what the options are there for each player. So they'll sideboard and shuffle up. Game number 2 going to be underway here in just a moment. Let's talk Game Night, shall we? The very popular promotion, thanks to you guys and all the local stores that are participating in it. I say local, but it's actually kind of everywhere around the world now. But we got some more details about what's coming out for the next couple of months.
Yeah, you can head over to go.starcgames.com/game night to find more information. Every month, we come out with new kits of pins and foils. We send them to the stores that are signed up. Stores can then run Game Night any day of the week, any format they want, just to get players in the store for some fun and friendly Magic on a regular basis. This is the July kit, playing for now. Got a couple more coming down the pipeline here in August. We got Young Burrowmancer, because it's burrowing. And then in September, Bone Chewer Giant. Again, go.starcgames.com/game night. Find the game night closest to you and stores. Contact your Starcy Games in-store play representative to get signed up for game night as soon as possible.
Game number 2 between Bant Company and Black White Angels on the way. I tell you, man, coming in this tournament, I think it was pretty easy to just say Bant Company was going to be a deck to expect here this weekend, but it has not disappointed. The addition of Spell Queller is no joke here.
Yeah, it naturally incorporates, already a very powerful deck that naturally incorporates the most obvious, straightforward, high power level card in the set. So no surprises there. Also happens to give the deck a little bit of a flying dimension, helps in the Planeswalker matchups, helps block flyers in the right matchups. So very natural addition, plays well at instant speed, great thing to hit off with Clouds of Company, etc., etc., etc.
I'm just curious to see how people are going to build their decks in response to this card. And how much do you have to change because of this sort of thing?
Well, I think the main phase 4s are going to be a lot worse unless you're going through some real pains to make sure that Spell Queller isn't good against you. If you're loading up on sideboarded, Rending Volleys and Aerial Volleys to be able to kill Spell Queller on the cheap after the fact, that works out just fine. But I still feel like the deck lists we've seen so far are a little bit too main phase oriented and don't have cheap, efficient removal spells. And the combination of those two things means we're watching people get swallowed up over and over again by Spell Queller.
It has been impressive every time we've seen it. I can't really say that Spell Queller has ever been bad.
Right.
Or any real punishment to having it around.
Well, I think we're going to probably see more copies of Planar Outburst and fewer copies of Languish, more copies of Planeswalkers like Obnixilis and fewer copies of Planeswalkers like Gideon. There are adaptations you can make, but it involves cutting some objectively more powerful cards to get 5 and 6 mana spells in your deck. Typically, constructed meta doesn't work that way. You want to be as cheap as efficient as possible, but if 4 mana becomes this critical flashpoint for spells that get played in the main phase, then I think you have to start considering some more expensive options.
I would say Rending Volley is looking more and more attractive now as well. You take Spell Queller into account. I know you don't love killing a Reflector Mage for Rending Volley, but also, hey, Avacyn.
It's a good tempo play against a number of these 3, 4, 5 mana threats. Bygone Bishop is picking up popularity.
Yeah.
It kills everything very efficiently in the Spirits deck. We have not seen a lot of red so far in the tournament. That's been the thing. We've seen every other color and pretty heavy representation. Not much in the way of mountains, so that's why we haven't seen much in the way of Rending Volley. But if you could build a deck that's effective with red mana, then I think that would be a great sideboard card to have right now.
Yeah, just something to maybe keep in mind for you deck builders out there that are getting ready for Baltimore next week or regionals in the Pro Tour the following week. Already trying to start to poke some holes in this standard format as we are underway here in game number 2. A shambling vent there from Ronnie Ritner. Well, that's a forest there for Christopher Weidinger. And now a swamp and a Transgress the Mind. So, a very powerful discard spell will be cast. You see Yapamai Coast. Let's make it 2 of those, along with the Plains. I see a Silk Wrap, a Reflector Mage. It looks like a Jace and a Nissa here for Christopher Weidinger. So how do you want to poke a hole in this one?
I would assume Nissa is the card Ritner cares about most often than not early on in the game. Threat plus card advantage.
Yeah, Reflector Mage is so annoying, though, and he is a little bit more creature-heavy than most other black-white decks, so maybe he cares about that. We'll see. And pardon me, I thought it was a Silk Wrap. It's actually a copy of Ojutai's Command.
Yep.
So that actually does change some things. And he will take Ojutai's Command. Keep in mind that is gone for good. Exiled. Back to Weidinger we go. Spell Queller the draw. That's fun. Here is Jace.
I'm guessing a Spell Queller drawn right after a discard spell is going to come up.
Do you think that might matter a little bit? Here is Read Them Their Bones from Ronnie Ritner. He's going to fall down to 18. He'll scry not once, but twice. Hey, it looks like he found a couple of lands here. The question is, does he actually need lands or not? Looks like he's going to take one of these. The other one's going to go to the bottom. So he'll split the difference, take the 2 cards. Looks like he found another copy of Read the Bones. And he'll pass the turn back over to Weidinger. Weidinger going to draw. Sylvan Advocate. Time to draw and discard with Jace. And there goes Yapamai Coast. A Plains. Does he want to cast anything?
Well, it's rough. If you pass the turn here, knowing that there is a Nissa in your opponent's hand, then the cat is sort of out of the bag.
Oh, okay, I see what happened here. So he played the wrong flip card. Obviously, you know what he was doing.
Right. He had both in his hand.
Yeah. He just actually played the wrong one. And he can't play Nissa on the second turn of the game, so
it's clear what happened.
yeah.
No one's running any game here. Just grab the wrong checklist card.
Yeah. A touch awkward. Checklist cards, once again, proving to be difficult for the game of Magic.
Especially when you have two from the same set.
Yeah.
It's a little rough.
I think an honest mistake more than anything. Just kind of curious what the ruling will be. But he did have both cards in his hand at that time, so.
Known by both players that this was the case.
Yeah. And by us. Here are the eyes in the sky. So we'll see if play is going to continue or if play is going to pause. And then we will move forward accordingly here. All right, they're going to check the policy, so guess what's going to happen?
Bringing it on back.
Bring it on home, folks. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan here in the booth. Let's talk about this Black-White Angels deck a little bit.
Okay.
So we've seen Black-White Control in the past. Seth Manfield, a lot of success with that deck. Brad Nelson, a bunch of other players. We've seen Black-White Control. Creatureless deck. A lot of creatures actually in the sideboard. Cletus, Eldrazi Displacer. It's a deck that I played a lot last season and had some success with. Now you got more creatures in the deck, but as I mentioned, it opens you up to Reflector Mage a little bit. Now, for the most part, I think a lot of the cards in this deck are going to cost a little bit more than 4 mana, which has its own positives and negatives. The negatives of that is you're kind of starting the game kind of late here.
And that's going to be, I think, the big cost with Gisela specifically. I think you can play around Spell Queller by keeping everything very cheap. If you have a bunch of 1s and 2s, you can probably manage that card without giving up too much tempo. That's one path. The other is play 5 and 6 and 7s and try to ignore the card altogether. Gisela is in the sweet spot, the bad sweet spot, of being 4 mana on the main phase, vulnerable to Reflector Mage, and vulnerable to Spell Queller. That said, its ceiling is very, very high. And if you have enough attrition elements in the deck, you can afford to lose a little bit of tempo here and there trying to get Gisela set up, because once Gisela is able to attack, it recoups everything. You're gaining 4 life a turn, and if you fell behind a little bit in the game, it's not necessarily the end of the world. So the casting cost is, and the fact that it's a main phase creature, is the exact wrong place to be right now. But the power level still might be high enough that you can beat the Spell Queller Reflector Mage decks in spite of that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the question, right, is can you overcome, if you can actually kind of overcome this. Now, this is a bit grandiose, I would say, but, you know, way back in the day, there was something called the Flame Tongue Kavu test. And as a result, there were a lot of creatures you couldn't play because it would just die to Flame Tongue Kavu. And it almost feels like a lot of the creatures you have to play have to pass the Reflector Mage plus Spell Queller tester. They're not very good. And while I readily admit that Gisela is a very powerful card, you know, we're just watching it for the first time right now. You know, the fact that it doesn't pass either one of those tests, that makes it a hard card to play, I think.
That's a big challenge. On top of that, Red has just picked up a couple very good Volcanic Hammer effects in Incendiary Flow and Collective Defiance, I believe. And both of those cards line up beautifully against Gisela as well. If Rending Volley becomes a popular sideboard card, that's another great answer. So I think there was a lot of splash made of the card, and of course it's a 4-power flyer, first strike, lifelink with another power attached to it. There's a lot of splash there. You can imagine scenarios where it's really powerful, but does it line up the right way against the removal spells that are commonly played in the format? And that's kind of where Standard is and has been for the last 5 years. There are all sorts of cards. I mean, remember Bramaz from a couple of years ago. You're not arguing about whether or not that text box is attractive or potentially powerful, or if it has good numbers and good keywords, no question about it. But did it line up in the right way in combat against the popular creatures of the time? Did it line up the best way against the popular removal spells of the time? The answer, by and large, was no. And as a result, it didn't show up that much in Standard, even though there's no question its power level. It shows up in Modern and Legacy. You know, it's not like it was short on power. Just in the ecosystem of the threats and removal spells, it didn't line up the right way. Gisela may have that problem, at least early on, because Reflector Mage and Spell Queller are so popular, so ubiquitous. And if red decks become popular, there's a lot of good 3-damage spells that have just been printed that line up very well against it as well.
Now, don't get it wrong. For a card like Gisela, it is a card that you have to answer pretty quickly.
Yes.
You know, you don't want this thing floating around for a while because it'll check the entire battlefield, or it can just take over a game. That said, there are a lot of answers out there to the card and they're popular. I mean, we're not even talking about the black answers of Ultimate Price, Grasp of Darkness, Murder, Ruinous Path, all that stuff as well that line up pretty well against it. So I think it might be a difficult time for that card to see play, but we're not arguing the power level of the card, just how it fits in the particular format.
And you can see the plan here is we're not all in on Gisela. It's not the top of the curve. It's not the best card in the deck. If it happens to get killed, and the game goes on for 5 or 6 more turns, and you eventually find Bruna and put it all together, then that's fine. That's totally worth it. Or if it gets hit by Reflector Mage or Spell Queller, and then you just follow up with Languish to wipe their board, or Obnixilis to kill their Spell Queller, that's all fine too. But the way that Standard looks right now, I don't think you can just play this card as 3 or 4 copies without some sort of game plan, some overarching game plan for how you're going to handle some of these answer cards in the format.
Now, one card we'll take a look at really quickly here is Thalia's Lancers. The reason I want to take a look at that is the text in this card is pretty relevant. Being able to search for a legendary card, not a legendary creature, which is, I think, what most people thought initially. But being able to search for a legendary card means you can search for a card like Gaia Reach Sanitarium. But, I know it's a 5-mana spell. You might look at some applications across older formats. Once you realize that you can search for legendary land, all of a sudden I can search for, I don't know, Dark Depths, Urborg, a bunch of cards like that, Caracas, like you mentioned. But I think there's a lot to like about this card. The question I think you have to ask yourself is, one, how many of this card can you realistically play because it is a 5-mana spell, even though the body's nice and First Strike is nice. 5-mana spell, but also how deep down the rabbit hole do you go with a sort of package like this? Do you want to play 1 Kalitas, 1 Linvala, 1 Archangel Evison, 1 Bruna? Like, you can go pretty deep if you want to.
Well, and looking at Ronnie Ritner's deck list here, we have 1 Bruna, 1 Linvala the Preserver, 1 Archangel Avacyn, and 2 copies of Kalitas. So you have a couple bullets, and Kalitas is good enough and on curve enough that you're willing to play the second copy and hope to just draw it sometimes. 3 copies of Gisela as well. I think that I would probably flip the Gisela Kalitas spread right now, because it feels like Gisela is more of okay, once the game has gone on for 1,000,000 turns, then I can start leveraging this thing's power level either on an uncontested battlefield or in tandem with Bruna to kill someone with that meld synergy. Whereas Kalitas is the card you more regularly just want to cast on turn 4.
Yep.
But there is a lot of wiggle room here, and there's nothing to say that you couldn't go down to 1 copy of all these, fit in room for more removals or more bullets as they happen to come up.
I think it's kind of interesting to see how people are going to build with that card. So looks like we're all set here. They just swapped the card here, checked with the head judge to make sure what the ruling and the policy is, and now we do continue play, so we do apologize for the delay. And now we'll see if Ritner can tie things up here. Looks like, I believe, a Languish has cleaned some things up, and it certainly has. So now we're going to go over to Christopher Weidinger. It's got a Lumbering Falls, it looks like land number 4. And now there is Nissa. So the checklist cards have been cast. Shouldn't be a problem moving forward if there's a basic forest. Ritner will draw a card. Might be time to read Bones again. Absolutely.
Something that I like about the Black White Angels deck, though, is I think you're looking at Band Company right now, and even though it's a creature deck, it accumulates so much card advantage with Jace and Nissa and Collected Company, etc., that you can't really just draw some extra cards, tag them with some sweepers, and win the game with the leftovers. It doesn't really play that way. So trying to meld Bruna and Gisela and just lock someone out of the game, I think, is probably a better structural path than just trying to read the Bones, Languish, and Sorin someone out of the game. I think Band Company and decks like it are probably too robust to fall prey to that kind of strategy.
They'll play that game with you all day.
Yeah, they can hang around. If it's just about who has more cards at the end of the game, they can play that game about as well as anyone in the format.
Here comes Nissa for 2. Ritner's going to fall down to 14, it looks like. There's a Sylvan Advocate. And now there's a land. What do we have here? Another Languish, at least an attempt. There's Spell Queller. I like this play a lot by Ronnie, because now we can just grasp this and clean it all up. And that's one of the few ways that you can work your way around Spell Queller.
I mean, that was a in quotes bad Spell Queller, and that was still a fine Spell Queller.
Yeah. That just shows you the power of the card.
Still traded with a removal spell as a sweeper was resolving.
Yep. Evolving Wilds. What the heck is this?
Is it beatdowns?
I think it's just Lumbering Falls beatdowns. If that's all that it is, if I'm Ritner, I'm pretty happy. You're not adding to your board, not a lot going on. I get the opportunity to do something like this. This is where you want to be as a black-white player.
Yeah, Soren on the uncontested board.
There's a Kalitas. Domir for 4. There's a land in Forsaken Sanctuary, and now we're going to head back Christopher Weidinger's way. He'll search up an island.
Would not surprise me here if Ritner has taken out the Gisela Bruna package in this matchup. Just try to become a white-black control deck.
Just playing a little more traditional.
Try to take some of the sting out of Reflector Mage and Spell Queller.
The thing is, in this matchup, you still want Kalitas a lot.
Yeah.
It's still very, very good.
Sides to Brawl, and you're already playing with a lot of removal spells anyway.
And the difference with Kalitas is all it does, realistically, is it only takes 1 untap with it.
Yep.
With Gisela, you're going to need 2 or 3 untaps with it to be able to connect. With Kalitas, you get to untap with it once. All right, I get to kill a creature. I get a 2/2 from that. Okay, perfect. I'm right where I want to be. Oh, wow. Another Lumbering Falls beatdown.
How? Just testing out Ritner's jaw here.
Yep.
Just throwing jabs, seeing how he can handle it.
See how Ritner wants to use the Soren this turn.
And imagine we go back up.
I mean, he does have Bruna in hand, too, but he's going to go up. There's a Swamp. You get to draw that. No damage dealt. There's a land for the turn. It's the Swampy reveal. Oh, there's Kalitas. Pass the turn back. Reflector Mage the draw. He also has a Declaration of Stone in hand. Does Weidinger. But how does he want to sequence? Also has Eclectic Company, too. All right, there's Declaration in Stone.
I know there's an instinct there to just fire off your Reflector Mage, but Weidinger is running so thin on resources right now that I don't think he can afford to have the Reflector Mage killed and Kalitas trigger as a result of that. So I think the best bet is just keep the battlefield clear, fire off your Collected Company, and hope to hit a powerful sequence of cards.
Ritner going to sacrifice that clue to draw a card now. Now it's time for him to untap. And time for him to draw. Forsaken Sanctuary. He'll plus his Soren. There's a Swamp. That's a Forsaken Sanctuary. And this is Gisela. So it's still here. Sanctuary's a land for the turn. And now here's Collected Company. And it looks like this might be happening with it on the stack. A little unclear given the way that Chris pointed at it. So we can get a little clarification on when this Collected Company is being cast. And it looks like in response to Gisela. Maybe looking for a Spell Queller in this spot. Not able to find one. It's either a Jace or a Nissa along with the Sylvan Advocate. That's a 4-5 right now, so we'll see which Planeswalker it is. And it's Jace. And now there's Grasp of Darkness to take care of. Jace can't let that hang around. And pass the turn back. This is obviously, this goes without saying, but I'm going to say it. This is how Ritner wants the games to go.
Yes. And this is sort of what I was talking about the Reflector Mage Gisela sort of thing, Like, yes, Reflector Mage is about to put Gisela back in the hand and set Ritner back a few turns on getting it back on the battlefield. But Ritner has structured the game in such a way that he doesn't really care all that much about it.
Actually.
Well, now the Lumbering Falls takes care of the Sorin, right?
Well, I think he might just... Ritner's at 8. Right? So...
Yeah.
Ritner's at 8. There's a Sylvan Advocate on the battlefield. Here's Lumbering Falls, and he can just say, I'm going to try to kill you. Now, Ronnie's got to play a Grasp of Darkness to slow down the Advocate.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to take 5.
Still gets a lot of draws at it, and he also still has a Shambling Vent down to block next turn.
Mm-hmm. He could have died right there if he didn't have anything. So he's down to 3. Now, Sorin is going to load up most likely. Now, you can put a number of 1/1 black, vampire, and knight creature tokens with lifelink onto the battlefield, but in spots like this, I wouldn't be surprised to see a big minus. Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
You like big minus more than 17 1/1s when everything's on the ground? Oh, 14 1/1s rather?
Equal the highest life. Oh, okay.
I mean, 14
Yeah,
1/1 lifelink.
14 1/1s is a lot. 14 1/1s is a lot. I think I might like that a little bit better.
Well, I guess the risk with that line of play is you've seen Declaration in Stone. And you get killed, most likely, if that's in Weidinger's hand. The upshot is, though, if he doesn't have Declaration of Stone, this coming turn, just one attack pulls you ahead. You get to redeploy Gisela, and that's probably good enough to stabilize the game.
If I'm in Ronnie's spot, I want to do this instead.
Yeah, this is the safer line.
Yeah. I'm more comfortable doing this instead. It's no guarantee that it's right. I'm just more comfortable doing it. Here's Bruna.
But Ritner is at a very healthy light total right now. He gets to play Gisela next turn. He's got the biggest creature on the battlefield. His Planeswalker is still protected. So this is a safer route that still pulls him ahead in most reasonable spots.
Yeah, I think in most spots he's going to win this way.
It would have to be like Reflector Mage and Change to win from here. It's just unlikely.
Here's a Duskwatch Recruiter. I think we might get to see some meld action.
Well, I think that if Weidinger has any Reflector Mages left in his deck, he has to go for it now.
So he's got to activate the Recruiter now.
I think so, yeah. It allows him to get Sorin off the battlefield. It's another turn of delay on the meld.
There's an activation. Advocate, Jamoka's Command, Evolving Wilds.
Yeah, that ain't not it.
There's the Advocate. A little bit of trouble here for Chris. Looks like he wants to play the Advocate, but whatever decision he's going to make, he's got to get moving here because it looks like we're going to be working our way to our third game, and these guys are going to want to finish.
Yeah, debating between, I think, another Dutch Watch Recruiter activation or casting the Advocate.
Yeah. Looks like he'll just play the Advocate. No good attacks to be had. Now it's time to untap. Ritner's going to draw very quickly, plus his Sorin. You can see he knows he wants to get this game over with. Runa's Path is the reveal. He'll come in here with Bruna. This is Gisela. They're going to meld. And we get to actually see it. It's Brazella, Voice of Nightmares. Together as one.
This is a lot to work through.
Oh, do you think so? Flying First Strike, Vigilance, Life.
Oh,
Okay.
come on.
Collected Company off the top. One of the few ways out. Got to find a Reflector Mage here, Chris. 4, 5, 6. Did he find one?
Yeah, of course
Yeah,
he did.
of course he found one. Bounce that. Oh, my.
You must be new here if you thought there was going to be a different outcome.
Yep. I haven't done a show for a month, so thought we might see something new. Boy, that's infuriating. Here come the beatdowns. He even gets to fire up the Lumbering Falls. My goodness, you're a shambling vent. It's funny, too, because Ritner, I think, could have cast Ruinous Path on something.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I don't need to because I have this thing.
Yep. Now we're here.
So Shambling Vent's going to jump in front of Duskwatch Recruiter. So 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's going to gain 2 life, so he gets to stay alive.
Yeah, he's trying to eat if he can. He may need a chump block.
Mm-hmm. Looks like he's going to jump in front of the Recruiter. Ritner doing a lot of math here, trying to figure out how he can make it through not only this turn, but the next couple as well. I guess if there's any upside, which, you know, there's not, but, you know, he does get to recast both of his Angels and remeld.
Yeah, that's something. That's probably good enough. Yeah. Also, there's the possibility of him just plussing Soren and killing Christopher.
Yeah, that's on the table. So it looks like Shambling Vent's going to block the biggest creature.
Save the most.
Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, says, get that Lumbering Falls out of here. I don't want to see that thing anymore. I just want to kill you with Brazella. Draw a card. Duress. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There it is. Soren going to take care of the Duskwatch Recruiter.
And set this back up and hope that there isn't another Collected Company off the top into a Weidinger Mage, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Meld you real good. Brazella is back. All right, Chris. Can you do it one more time? You don't want to read that.
Yeah, don't worry. Perfect.
It's the wrong one. For once.
Yep.
It's the wrong one.
The deck tried to give it to him again.
Sure
it just didn't get the full story.
Yeah. Ronnie and Ritner are going to win game number 2 here over Christopher Weidinger. Oh, man. Black White Angels Band Company, they're going to play a third game here. My goodness. Well, here's what you know. Here's what we can say for sure. Brazella is really good when it's out there.
Yes, I would hope so.
Yeah. You got to work pretty hard for it, but it's good once it's there.
2 cards and 11 mana and, you know, whatever, $30, like whatever. It's a lot. It's a lot of different resources.
Yeah. It's good when it's there. It's just about getting it there and then not getting it bounced to be a Collected Company. Now, we weren't sure if Ronnie was going to leave that sort of stuff in, but I think, you know, maybe he only has 1 Giselle in after sideboard, something like that. Unclear.
Well, he became much more of a traditional black-white control deck, which I think is the way to position himself in the matchup. I think you need to get away from, you know, the 4-mana main phase value stuff as much as possible because of Spell Queller and Reflector Mage, and Ritner still had a little bit of that going on, but he was able to become much more of just a removal and sweeper deck. I think it's much better for the matchup.
Well, you see the clock there for each player. We got about probably 12 minutes when we start this one. They shuffle up and all that jazz. So as they get ready, we're going to talk about the creature collection here at Star City Games. We got some cool stuff coming down the pipeline for you. This month, available in playmat sleeves and player bundles, we've got our old Snipcaster Mage. And for you, I don't know if you've seen our fruit bat yet.
I have not.
Old Fruit Bee?
Okay. Fruit bat.
Just taking out a watermelon. Also available in playmat sleeves and player bundles. Go to starcitygames.com/creature collection. Be able to pick up these items. And of course, when you come to an SCG Tour event, you can get them at our dealer booth too.
Yeah, we are always stocked up with all the supplies and playmats and so forth. So if you come to one of our open events, just head on over to the booth.
So game number 3 here going to be underway here between Ronnie Ritner and Christopher Weidinger in just a moment. But these first 2 have certainly been fun. That's for sure. I've seen a lot of new cards here from Eldritch Moon. thus far throughout our tournament. Brand new decks as well. I think that this set's just going to have a huge impact on Standard.
Yeah, and I think it's pushing power level in a different direction too. If you look at green-white tokens or black-white control, they are mostly just piles of good cards. There are some synergies there, but for the most part, it's a bunch of pieces that just stand on their own 2 feet. With the tribal enablers, with Emerge, with things like Bruno and Gisela, we're looking, I think, at a much more synergy-driven set, and I think that'll be a breath of fresh air, because it is fun to just play with piles of powerful cards, like that's totally fine, but you also want the decks to feel like decks too, and so promoting that a little bit more, I think, will be healthy for Standard.
Well, we're going to see how game number 300 unfolds here in just a moment. I got to give a shout-out to Ritner's shirt here, by the way. Cavaliers Championship tee.
From the land.
I owned that one as well. Ronnie and I are very big Cleveland Cavaliers fans.
Still basking in the glow. It's nice.
Well, we're going to be basking in it for the next 52 years.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad spot to be in. Looks like Chris going to take a mulligan. Hey, everything's coming up Cleveland right now.
Okay.
We won the title.
Yep.
We had the Republican Never mind.
Yep.
Never mind. We had the Republican National Conference. Never mind. Indians are in first place.
That's nice.
Our baseball team is great. That's awesome. Big fan of that. Browns are nope, forget it.
But they at least seem well managed at this point. They're rebuilding. There's a path. It's not a bunch of quick fixes to try to get to 8-8 like we've seen over the last 10 years.
That's one of our favorite strategies.
Yeah.
Quick fix to 7-9 or 8-8.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't win you anything, but it keeps the fans. Doesn't even keep them happy.
Trade it down in the draft, accruing picks. Yeah. There's an awareness of how big the task is to rebuild the franchise, and they're finally taking the right steps.
Got a franchise quarterback in Robert Griffin III. Theoretically, a franchise quarterback. Here's a swamp there from Ritner. It's a great time to be a Clevelander, an Ohio native.
From the land.
That's right. Third land, and there's the battlefield tap there for Chris. No plays early. Ritner with the third land, going to pass the turn back. That's a Plains. Pass the turn back.
Could be anything.
Yep. All right, Cletus. That'll probably be in your hand in just a moment, Ronnie. Eclectic Company. We'll find out if this is in response to Cletus or if Cletus is on the battlefield, because you get to play this weird Eclectic Company game.
It's awkward, right?
Do I want to try to Spell Queller or do I want to try to Reflector Mage it? So, yes. So is that on the stack? Okay, it is on the stack.
I think he hit both anyway, right? Hold on.
Yeah, on the stack.
Guessed right.
Yeah. Okie dokie. I knew it wasn't going to last very long. Sylvan Advocate the draw. Beatdowns. Spell Queller, it's round 6. Spell Queller is obnoxious.
Yeah.
The card is really good.
Yep. It's pretty corny.
Yeah. Sylvan Advocate, pass the turn back. What do we have here? Some bones, perhaps? Nope. Ruinous Path. That resolve? Nope. Ritner have a way to actually kill it now. First removal spell got taken care of. There's a Case of Koilos and a Grasp of Darkness. He'll take 2 to cast it, but he gets his Cletus back. I think that's pretty important.
Yep. And Weidinger already down because of the mulligan here, drawing pretty thin to get out of this. And he needs to do it right away. Doesn't catch up once Cletus is on the battlefield for a turn or two. And even if he has Reflector Mage, it's not like that's a long-term solution with Ritner at 16.
Eclectic Company in the main phase. Top 6. Is there a Reflector Mage? Oh, yeah.
You must be new here because you keep asking like it's going to be different any time.
There is Reflector Mage.
He said on the stack and hit only Spell Queller the first time.
It's true.
What did you think was going to happen?
I don't know. It's my job to actually just call the action. Yeah. It's your job to predict it.
What are the odds?
Yeah.
100%.
Let's see if Ritner has a languish. It would be a good time for one. That's for sure. Read the bones, not a good time for that. Has to transgress the mind, but it's not a great time for that either. Ronnie looks to be in some trouble here. Ah, yes. Read the bones. Yeah, that
stings the nostrils.
Oh, boy.
2 more cards that don't impact the board.
Yep, Plains in Duress. Bottoms up. Peel 2. 2 lands. Forsaken Sanctuary being one of them. There's a land, and Ronnie Ritner needs to find an angel real soon. Thalia's Lancers in hand. He does have a copy of Ultimate Price in the grip. Does he want to play it now to try to play around the gate? We'll have to see.
But he may really want to set up Kalidas plus Ultimate Price next turn. Looks like he's going to give up on that.
Yeah, I think he probably has to give up on that. Advocate is just too troublesome, especially if the opponent has a counter spell. So we're going to head back Christopher's way. Beatdowns for 4. Ritner down to 8. There's a land. Does he have a follow-up play?
Well, he didn't attack with the Lumbering Falls, so got to have something to do.
Going to activate the Duskwatch Recruiter. Top couple of cards. Sylvan Advocate's one of them. All right.
It's not a bad one to find here.
Yeah, rarely a bad card to find. And thinking Advocate, but not sure.
Yeah, I like pulling the trigger here. It's outside of Languish range. If Ritter's going to follow up with Kalidas between the Advocate and the Lumbering Falls, you can attack and force a chump block. It's a little risky, I understand. You know, if Ritner has something like Kalidas plus removal spell, it doesn't look good, but I think the rewards outweigh the risk here.
And now Ritner's got to go in the tank because he is in some trouble. He is not really in great 2-spell per turn territory. So I'm sure that he would love the ability to play Kalidas plus removal spell, but he gave up on that last turn. Kalidas plus Read the Bones is not ideal. Transgress doesn't do very much right now. And Thalia's Lancers is also pretty poor.
Yep.
So there's a swamp.
And you can't even do something like Read the Bones for Languish. That's not a path either.
Yep. So now I think if you're Ritner, the hope is that maybe your opponent plays around a removal spell too much, but he's got a negate in hand.
Yeah.
So that's even kind of off the table. All right, let's take a look. Going to start with Transgress. It looks like, at least. Maybe not. All right, there's Transgress the Mind. The hand is Tireless Tracker negates. Wow, he takes Tracker very fast.
Can't take the negate.
That's true, my fault.
Yep.
You're right. There's Kalidas, pass the turn back. Weidinger will draw. Another copy of Lumbering Falls. Tough card for a black-white deck to beat.
I think that Ritner is going to just have to chump block with Kalidas this turn, assuming Weidinger fires up the Lumbering Falls.
Yep. Because
the Kalidas puts him at an effective 11 if he gets to block, and if he blocks one of the 2-power creatures, 11 points of damage comes through.
Well, instead, we're seeing a Duskwatcher Recruiter activation.
I don't know. This seems like a spot where you just
fire
push,
Lumbering
you just
Falls.
push your chips in.
Yeah. I think that's what I would have preferred here for Chris.
Unless I'm miscounting, but it looks like Sylvan Advocate plus Lumbering Falls plus any of the 2-power creatures is 11.
It's 11, yeah.
So he has to block Sylvan Advocate or the Lumbering Falls, and at that point he's chump blocking, and you still have your board next turn. Everything looks good.
Instead, this way, by activating the Duskwatch Recruiter, Ritner's going to get at least one more turn, maybe more than that.
Right, and he knows about the negate, so if he can follow up here with just a large creature, he's not out of this game yet. It can't be a spell, or he's going to have to go duress into a spell to get something out of that.
Yeah.
But if he has something like Bruna, Linvala the Preserver, like there are cards now that he has that can pull him out of this.
Linvala is the best one he can find, in my opinion. Now, I don't know if he's got time to mess around with Thalia's Lancers or not, but let's see what's going to happen now. There's going to be a transformation. Ritner at 4. Read the bones.
And Ritner with that look of, yeah, you can
What? He says, I dare you to negate it, I guess?
Right. But
Whew.
there's no way in that spot that Weidinger's going to negate that.
Peel 2. What's he looking for? Gisela, maybe?
Probably, yeah. At this point, he needs. Even Thalia's Lancers wouldn't be the worst.
Well, he's got that in hand.
Although, I guess Thalia's Lancers leaves him dead on, or he has to chump. No, it's dead on the battlefield, right? Because he's effective 5, and he gets 5 points of damage from the Reflector Mage and the Flip Dutch Watch Recruiter coming across. So now he's got to hang back with Shambling Vents and cobble a block together that way.
Yep.
I mean, he's barely hanging on here. I don't even know if he can get out of this turn.
Yeah, hanging on is strong. That's actually kind of insane. The Flip Duskwatch Recruiter makes this so that Advocate only costs 1.
Although I still don't know if that play was better than just activate Lumbering Falls and leave up Negate.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you have him in a spot where he's either got to block with Kalidas or with the Shambling Vent. I guess this way it requires. I guess this way he can't double block. But now the shields will be down for Ritner to resolve a removal spell potentially. So this is dangerous.
Here come the Knuckleheads. Now Ritner's at 2 with the ability to activate Shambling Vents and cast Grasp.
So he goes up to an effective 5 here just with Kalidas, 7 if he activates the Shambling Vent.
And we're in turns now. So Ritner's trying to play for a draw here. There's Grasp there. Okay, so now zombie in front. Yep, zombie in front of Lumbering Falls. Sacrifice the zombie.
Yep.
Put a counters there. Your Cletus turns into a 5/6. You beat the Advocate in combat. You take 2, but you gain 5. So realistically, you gain 3. He's up to 5. Advocate down.
Yeah, now.
And now he gets a zombie because the Advocate dies.
Right, now Ritner's in the clear.
Yeah, so he should have another zombie on the battlefield. That's not, you can't miss that. So he has to be notified of that. So the Advocate in Christopher's graveyard should be exiled. It's not a you may, that has to happen. Yeah, one thing actually he killed the, what did he grasp?
The Flip Dutch Watch Recruiter.
Okay, so he should have, okay, so he got a zombie from that and the Advocate died, so he got a zombie from that.
Right,
yeah. Yeah, one thing I learned playing this deck in the Grand Prix, because I'm a big doofus, is the Cletus whole exile and get a zombie thing, you can't miss it.
It's like a replacement,
yeah,
right?
It cannot be missed. They will unwind the game to fix it in most circumstances. Read the Bones is going to bring Ritner down to 3. I think that Ryan just cast Read the Bones just right in the face of no life.
Yeah.
Just, I got no choice. I got no choice. I got to do this. There's a land. Is he going to go Lancering, maybe? It's got Anguish Unmaking. That's no good.
Yeah, there's this weird push-pull here where he kind of wants to attack with the Cletus to ensure that he gets the 5 life.
Yeah.
But it's so much more valuable on defense than on offense. So how do you manage that? He can kind of best of both worlds here with an Anguish Unmaking on the Sylvan Advocate. That allows you to attack here and means it's so much less likely you get killed on the way back. And you're better protected against Reflector Mage because you're picking up the 5 life straight away.
I think he might be, yep, just kill himself. Just Read the Bones and Anguish Unmaking on the same turn. Down to 2. He's even going to attack?
I think so. I think it's just a question if he wants to put the zombie on
All
or
right.
not. Yeah, I like this line a lot. from Ritner.
Business. Attack you for 4, 5, 6, 7, go up to 9.
He's not going to die this turn, and this gives him a shot of winning inside of turns.
You got to at least get a shot.
Yeah.
All right, 13-9, turn 2. Ronnie Ritner ain't playing for no draw. He's trying to win this thing. There's a land. Yeah, maybe fire up a Lumbering Falls now.
So Weidinger missed on his draw. I think he just picked up a land.
I think so.
I think he needs to play for a draw now.
Now it's flipped.
I don't think he can win. Not in the 2 turns.
He's going to attack for 5. Going to put Ritner down to 4.
I'm a little skeptical of the damage race here.
Well,
I think I would have left the Lumbering Falls back.
And Ronnie knows the card in his hand.
Yeah.
He knows it's a negate.
Right.
So he can play accordingly. It's turn 3.
I think if I was Weidinger this turn, I would have been chump blocking with a Lumbering Falls. Just like don't turn this into a damage race. You can't win it, but you might be able to chump block out of this.
Interesting.
And taking the hit here isn't trivial because Ritner has Sorin Grim Nemesis in his deck. So he does have reach. He does have burn in this scenario. Taking the 7 damage here is a huge hit.
Mm-hmm. There's an attack for 7. Weidinger's going to fall down to 6. Ritner's going to go up to 11. We might see Lancers for Gisela.
Yep, I buy that.
Yeah, so trigger search, because this Bruna stuff's too slow now. So if he has Gisela left in his deck, he can do that. Oh, hello. That'll play.
Even better.
Yep, that'll play. Archangel Avison.
And right now, there's 4 attackers against 2 blockers with Weidinger at 6 because remember,
He's got vents.
he's still got the vent down. So unless Weidinger picks up something big here, he's going to die to the alpha. Stop! That's my fault. That's my fault for assuming there could have been any other outcome.
This is on you.
Right.
This is entirely on you, right?
This is my fault.
This is all on you? That Chris Drew Reflector Mage
Right.
turn, this is
Yeah.
all on you.
This is my fault.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page here. What could he draw
Yeah.
to get himself out of this?
Right. What else could it have been?
Bounce Archangel Avison. Pass with the ability to activate Lumbering Falls as well. It's turn number 5. It's turn 5.
As if it could have been any other way.
Uh-huh. Yeah, here come the beatdowns. There are the chump blocks immediately. It's going to be a draw. Christopher Weidinger, the top deck Reflector Mage, is going to get him out of this one alive against Ronnie Ritner. Bat Company, Black White Angels, tie it up. They're 5-0-1.
It's really fun to sometimes pretend like things aren't predeterministic, and then we play a match like that where it's just no question what the outcome is going to be the whole time. There's a push and pull. There's drama on both sides. It looks like Weidinger's got the game locked up. It looks like Ritner has turned the corner, and maybe he's going to be able to win inside turns. And, of course, you peel the Reflector Mage in the last possible turn to get a draw.